Hey, what is up everybody, Blaze for here, and today for you guys another video, Persona 5X. Inside today's video guys, we're going to be going ahead and doing the top 5 changes I want to see inside of P5X here, whether they're big or small here, but these are going to be my top 5 kind of gripes. Now this is going to be for both global and TW, as a global TW video of course. Pretty much I'm just on my TW account just to kind of sit here and just talk. I love my fits better over here, but mainly this is going to apply to both of the actual servers. Main reason for this because I actually had a comment in the commenting on my post here a couple days ago where I was asking people what they wanted to see, and one of the main comments was we wanted to know what was some huge changes that I want to see inside of the actual thing. So Spy Guy 1236 here, thank you for actually going ahead and commenting that on the actual community page here. I'm gonna start doing community page videos a lot more as well, where you guys end up asking a topic. And I'll try to do these as well because a ton of you guys seem to actually like those. So we're gonna go ahead and actually do those a little bit more as well and try to interact as much as possible with the community as possible. But before we get into this video, I do want to say we have a 24-hour stream that's starting tomorrow. I'm going to most likely start it at 8 a.m. EST. And that's literally going to be tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock or either 7 a.m. EST. The reason why it's going to be that early, at least for the Eastern Standard Time side of things, is mainly because I want to make sure as the 24 hours goes on, it happens in the morning. Okay, because then that gives me some time to be like, okay, the next morning after 24 hours, I'm able to, like, after the stream's over, chill out for a second, still be a little bit functional, get my coffee, and then kind of go with my day. And then once it hits nighttime, I can actually crash out. So yeah, that's what we're going to be planning. I'm gonna try and get that done. We're gonna have a lot of things going on, whether it's viewers, what's it called, people who want me to summon on their accounts if they have summons, people who want me to go ahead and grind their accounts or either help them out on different ways, tier list fun, you name it, we got it. We're gonna be trying to do everything for that whole 24-hour session here, so of course be sure to stop by. But now that we went over this here, this is going back to the topic of the video, which is my top 5 things that I want to see changed inside of P5X, which can really help out a lot here. One of the main things that I want to immediately go ahead and look at is going to be the lack of 4 stars. Now inside of P5X itself, global is going to be soon getting the newest 4-star, which is going to be Rico here. And then later down the line, once of course story does develop, you guys will be getting another 4-star, which is going to be Loose. Currently, if you guys look at my screen, or at least when it comes down to at least the 4 stars that we have now, we have Vino, who was recently added into the global patch. And then of course we end up having the 2 new people being Rico and where did Loose go? Hold on, did I pass my man Loose? I think I did. He's right here, and Loose up here, who are the newer type characters. Other than that, you don't have many 4 stars in this game, and this has been something I've been really preaching quite a lot here, because that means we don't have many uses for our 4 stars. The only useful ones that have been still kind of around on P5X for TW itself has been Leon. We've had some uses every now and again with Rico. We've had a few more uses when it comes down to still using Vino at times, and then a few other uses when it comes down to using Loose. But other than those characters, we don't really use our 4 stars. And majority of the time, these said 4 stars will have a 5-star counterpart that is just way out of the water. I would like to see more variety, especially when it does come down to the rarity type wise of things here, seeing we really would like to try and utilize this a little bit more. Of course, I do understand Star Rail, other type gotchas, eventually they started drifting away more from this as well, in which it was more or less one of these things that you don't see too often anymore. And I'm just gonna have this actually playing in the background so you guys can kind of look at like different stuff that's happening, but you more or less start not to see this anymore when it comes down to the 4 stars or just the actual usefulness of some of these characters. And I want to see more 4 stars that are actually useful. Once we get that in the game, or get more 4 stars in general, I feel like a lot of people will be very happy about that, especially seeing they could then take advantage and start doing challenge runs of different things, actually enjoy trying to use these said 4 stars instead of consistently having to go for 5 stars. That's every gacha nowadays. So I mean, like, you know, it's kind of become a standard where just 5 stars are going to overhaul all the 4 stars, but you know, I would like to see something different. Now, the next thing that I want to go over, and my second thing I would like to change about both versions of the game, is a little bit harder content. Now, global on the other hand did get a little bit more harder content because they changed up Velvet Trials, but I don't want them to change old content to make it harder. No, I want genuine harder content. And the reason for this is because a lot of the times, as you're seeing like I'm doing right now, even without Makoto Yuki, for example, being A6, he still can just do this on auto with the right team. And this is something that is very straightforward, I guess I could say, where a lot of the times you're just going to be doing this majority of the time, unless there's some content that truly takes up a lot of your time. You're normally going to be on auto. You normally don't have to put a ton of effort into it unless you're either going for ranking or unless you are trying to get a fancy medal, and there's not going to ever be that difficulty spike, which is something that I do want to see. A lot of people who I've talked to, including some of my other friends being like Chills, Zabai, or we have Earphone, a bunch of people who we end up talking with, it comes down with the harder content where there's not really that use of harder content. It doesn't really exist inside of P5X, and that's one of the few problems I do have. And it's not because, oh, beluga whale or whale, whatever you call him, dolphin is stalking here. No, it's just a genuine thing, because even when it comes down to alt accounts, the harder content really doesn't exist. There are some gimmick fights that are a little bit difficult, but as for actual hard, pay attention, interactive content, we don't really have that. So I do want to see more of that in the future. Now, another change that I want to see in the future is going to be some just fun type of different content, whether it is just helpful content in general, where it's like some different mini games or multiplayer aspects. Now, multiplayer has been a thing that I really want to focus on quite a lot with this game here, and I feel like it can be done. What I mean by this, it could either be things somewhat like Guild Boss where you borrow certain characters, or it can be something that you just in general can play with your friends. Now, we don't see this too often in gachas today, especially with multiplayer aspects, because of course it does take a lot of time to do these said things here. But I would like some content that's a little bit different, you know, something that we can actually utilize our friends in. If you only think about it, the only places where we can utilize friends like assistants and things is going to be inside of Guild Bosses itself, and then in some basic type fights. You usually don't get to utilize the whole friend system, and I kind of want that actually expanded upon, because if I go ahead and look at my friends here, majority of the time I'm not utilizing them. Even I have people who kind of just sit here, in which I actually need to accept these guys myself, but there's just times where you don't utilize your friends. Even when it comes down to me having people utilize my units, you don't ever hit this main cap of 50 too often, or at least too quick, because there's not a lot of content where people are going to be forced to at least borrow these type of characters. There's not content that you're really going to be utilizing multiplayer extent, at least for these said units. So I want more content that we actually need to utilize this here, whether it's going to be multiplayer aspect or just fun aspects of content. We need something different, because let's be honest here, when it comes down to our events, it's usually the same thing. We get some mini games, but the mini games are slowly getting newer, so I'm not really going to complain about these. The other ones that is a little bit that's newer here is this one. We get these type of things. This is amazing to have. This is somewhat different. This was a new game mode that they decided to add in, and that's nice. We've even had new rogue game modes, but after a while we start getting the same type of deal where we're always going to get either a basic mini game that's just a carbon copy of the other, and it leaves a little bit of a lackluster taste in your mouth at that point. Or either, who knows, we may get a boss fight, and that boss fight is just a carbon copy of something that we're doing currently on global, where we have a lovely boss fight, add some missions to it, and then that's the end of it. You could try for level 30 to get a fancy little medal, but that's about it. I want more content that is a little bit different, that's fun, a little bit refreshing, and sometimes you can utilize multiplayer aspects. Just think of it. If we had like at least a boss that, for example, these, and we could borrow our friends' actual characters, it would be great, because at that point in time, you can use your own character, sure, but you could also take advantage and try to utilize other characters that you never got to use on your own account because you just didn't have them. If you wanted to go ahead and compete with other people and actually just go ahead and utilize your friends who are on your friends list, it would be very much so a fun experience. I feel like they need to try and focus a little bit more on that as well if they really want to make this game even better. But you guys let me know what you think about that. Now that you've made it this far, be sure to put it down below in the comment section, #Astro, because that's going to be our next topic on this video. Now, ASTOLABE, this is something that's new in this, well, this is something that a lot of you guys on global don't have just yet, but it's going to be something that's going to be on global fairly soon. Astrolabe is another type of function that I really want to actually change here. And it's not because of how the game mode is itself. You do get, of course, these challenging battles at times, but the issue with this game mode is the lack of certain materials. For example, we get a ton of these materials here, but one of the materials in actual hindsight that we don't get that needs heavy changing, and actually, to be honest, I can say this for all the materials, is this little blue bell. Now we get a ton of these materials here which help you get up the character. Pretty much what this is, it's like inner stats. So if there's a character that you want to, of course, buff up, for example, let's take a look at Curse Ren. You would then do the outside layer with these little type of things which give you some base stats or percentage stats, and then you have the inside layer which takes these type of materials here, and they can be fairly expensive. For every character that you have to do this for, it is a heavy strain on the materials that you get. If you wanted to build even just the best of characters here and focus those guys down, you won't have enough to really get through all of it. For example, Howler's amazing, but for this step in particular, it takes 2 of these guys just to go up, and that's for the 4th one. Then just to get to the 5th one, you need 3 of these dudes. These are very expensive. You only get so many every time you do a map here, and it's most likely going to be the same way on global. I would like them to kind of boost this, especially for the global side as well, because it's been something that even on the TW side that we've talked about for quite a long time, that Astrolabe does need a couple changes. It is a very interesting mode, a fun mode at times, but it's fairly flawed. And I do feel like this needs to be changed for the better. So I want them to try and change this and make it a little bit better in the long run to actually, you know, have a little bit of fun with it while also getting a ton of materials. I think this is going to be a good one that they could end up changing, and it would make a huge deal, especially when it comes down to the future. Now, my last but biggest change that I really want to have inside of P5X is the universal cards. If you guys don't know what the universal cards are, a lot of you guys on global have started trying to get these guys more often, but they're the giant card that goes to your revelation set, aka your gear set. It's the one in the middle that's huge, and it triggers mainly all of your set effects. Now, the thing with this type of deal is universal cards are very scarce. There's not really places that you're going to be able to actually get them from, except for small event packages, some guild boss, of course, and that's about it. You can get the random ones from the exchange shops themselves as well, but those are the only real ways of actually getting these type of aspects, which is very saddening, because when it comes down to at least building all these characters, and you have a ton of characters that are going to continue coming out, you won't always have at least so many of these universal cards. And for example, with the random packages, they're random, so always getting the universe card that you need for that specific character and their set effect is way harder than you may think. So I want a way that we can actually farm these universe cards. It doesn't have to be farmable itself, but let's take a game mode like Heart Rail, for example. After we finish all of the fixated rewards, there's not really a reason to go back there, especially if you finish the missions, if you finished anything regarding it. So what I would like is a place to actually go ahead and try to farm these said universal cards, in which Heart Rail could be a perfect place to do so. Let's say it's just like Simulated Universe, where every week it does reset or something. We get a decent bit of prizes, and then we get one of those universe card pickers, which would be very helpful for at least building our characters itself. We need a good place to go ahead and at least revolve, and I keep saying that by mistake. Gosh, I know someone's gonna harp on me for that in the comment section, but we need a place that revolves around universe cards itself in order to build a lot of these characters. But that's just my type of thought process when it does come down to it. What do you guys think should be added to P5X itself? Are there different problems that you have inside the game, or some 5 big changes that you want to see? I'm interested, so let me know down below. And who knows, we may have another video going over the questions and answers, or some things of at least community changes, and I said it again, of community changes that you guys really want to see. But till then, everybody, thank you for watching. Peace out.